Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Time Wrestling Podcast. This is HJ189. It's only our second episode ever. Today, we're going to get more in depth, now that you know who I am, about some serious topics here. One of which I've been wanting to talk about for a long time is the importance of character development in pro wrestling. Pro wrestling gets by just fine with the athletes and all the various moves that they present and their athletic ability and their physiques. But one other element is crucial, and not a lot of people will believe this unless they're a diehard fan. You have to have a great character. Now, I'm not talking about some crappy gimmick like it's 1995 and everybody had a side job or a second occupation. I'm not talking about Duke the Dumpster Drosy or Dr. Isaac Yankem DDS or TL Hopper or any of those guys. Not necessarily a gimmick. Now, a gimmick can be is tied into a character. A gimmick could represent who you are, but a personality goes above that because some people don't automatically have necessarily a gimmick. Like let me give you a good example: The Undertaker, one of the greatest of all time. We're celebrating him this month, 30 years. Being a Western mortician is how he started out, and then of course he evolved into some Gravely character who represented everything about the undead, and eventually morphed into a biker, and then reprised his dead man persona, and that was a great gimmick that stuck out. But he's an exception. I don't think anybody will stick out like that in the span of 30 years. We'll see. I could be wrong. But one of the things I think about character development is that you have to be believable. In this day and age, because everybody knows about kayfabe, that's harder to do than it was back in the 80s or 90s. In the 2000s, people started to, I would even say the late 90s, with the advent of America Online, the internet, people sort of caught on to how character development worked, how pro wrestling worked in general, and so characters were sort of exposed in that sense. They have to believe they need to actually believe what they're saying with conviction. You either really love them or you really hate their guts. I think those are just essential qualities. CM Punk, late 2009 to early 2010, this is just a fraction of his 8-year run with the company. He was the straight edge savior, the messiah of the straight edge movement. This is his first heel turn. He was the leader of the straight edge society. All the things he said, and it was based off of the fact that he really, did not drink, did not smoke, did not do drugs. And like he said in ECW when he first got there, my only addiction is competition. Well, except he was a babyface then. He wasn't preaching to the choir like he was later on. People actually hated it because it felt like somebody that would actually push their beliefs on you. Kind of like you walk down the street, no disrespect to this religion, but I actually had two Mormon missionaries come and try to convert me to be a Mormon. And so people will do that stuff, and I think it's okay. It's good to have your own belief system, but don't push it on other people. And this is a perfect example. CM Punk actually played off something that happens in real life. Now, I've never encountered a straight edge person trying to preach their beliefs to me. Can't say I ever had that happen, but he basically told the crowd, one drink of vodka and your life is ruined, anything like that. And so he actually brought members into the crowd, and they took a pledge. That was his quote-unquote pledge of allegiance. And then, of course, they shaved their heads, and that's how we got Luke Gallows and Serena and Joseph Mercury, as he converted himself to. It was sort of this cultish movement. They shaved their head, and sort of reminiscent of other famous cult leaders, but CM Punk wanted to be like a reincarnation of Jesus Christ with his long locks of hair and the fact that his hair was pure, unlike the other people. And he had the beard, and everybody used to make fun of the fact he had all this chest hair and stuff, but it was just bullshit stuff coming from fans. Anyways, let's not get off track here. The character was believable, and it was so great that, I always am a big fan of CM Punk. I can't hate him. So I kind of just jumped on his bandwagon. But people who aren't as big a fan of his, like myself, they naturally hated him. And that's the desired reaction. You're supposed to hate someone who does those sort of things because, it sort of becomes uncouth and, unprofessional in life to judge somebody like that. I'll give you another great character that believes what they're saying. Let's think of another good example here. See, I've been a fan for so long, there's so many great ones out there. The Rock is a great one too. And, he sort of identifies himself as a cocky, athletic jock, but he backs it up. He's not like the sports jock that wears the Letterman's jacket and wins the Heisman Trophy in college or anything like that. But he's a very athletic guy, and he believes everything he's saying, and then the people catch on to it. And that's just his charisma right there. You can't teach what The Rock has. That's a great example. Anything you can feed off of real life is really great too. This one's going to sound really far-fetched, but of course we all know the incident with Matt Hardy and Edge and Lita and the love triangle. Think of somebody who was in a relationship, if you've ever been in that case, and then of course the boyfriend or girlfriend cheated on you with somebody else. You could relate to Matt Hardy, and he just wanted retaliation for the whole ordeal, and of course we all know how that went without getting into too much detail. Daniel Bryan is great too. I'm wearing his Yes shirt. I just dug it out of the closet. And he was a big believer in underdogs. There have been so many underdogs in WWE. 1, 2, 3 Kid, Zach Gowen, Colin Delaney, all those guys. I'm not Colin Delaney's biggest fan, but anyways. Daniel Bryan was always told he'd never make it. And just because he's only... was he like 5'9", 5'10", 192 pounds? That's not your average size wrestler. Unlike somebody like Orton or Batista, whom he was feuding with at the time, or Triple H no less, in his prime. And eventually it got to a point where the company was forced to have him in the main event at WrestleMania 30, otherwise fans would riot. They did that whole, they parodied Occupy Wall Street with Occupy Raw. Everybody wore these shirts and a couple other associated Yes shirts and went, yes, 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 all the way through the night, and they occupied the ring and scared Triple H and Stephanie so much so that they evacuated the ring and went up the ramp and never to be seen again that night. And so it was a dream come true scenario, because sometimes you really have to, in life, you have to fight for your dreams and scratch and crawl until you get what you want, and this sort of exemplified it. Now I know his reign was cut short due to various injuries along the way, and of course it led to his first early retirement, and that title only lasted 64 days. But the fact that the story behind it, you can't take away how great that was. People were actually invested in that, and it's sad that you don't see stories like that anymore. It doesn't have to always be an underdog or chasing a title, but the fact that he kept getting screwed over made it that much more believable. Even Jeff Hardy in late 2008. But I think with Jeff Hardy, they were more hesitant because he has a huge history of drug problems, and he's violated the wellness policy so many times that they just don't trust him anymore to be in that picture, and they just threw him a bone, at Armageddon 2008, and that was that. But with Daniel Bryan, he lives a cleaner lifestyle, much like CM Punk, except he didn't preach it. He preached it more in 2019 with, trying to save the earth and, not contaminate it. One of those earthly guys. But, so those are just a few good examples. Now, you have characters on TV that just appear for no reason. Aleister Black, he's a gothic character, which, I don't necessarily hate him, but there isn't much substance to him. He just rises up from the dead, and then has this match, and has this generic music, which doesn't connect with me, and his promo style is not very memorable. There's a bunch of others, too. But anyways, character development is a big thing in wrestling, and I hope everybody, jumps on that bandwagon and sees the importance of it like I do. Thank you, everybody. See you next time. Bye.